Good morning, Perspective Outreach listeners. Welcome back, and we hope you had a blessed week. We are again meeting with the Three Musketeers, myself, Bernard Dreyer, Wessel van Merwe, and John Baker. And starting the session, we started talking about various verses we've been reading, and when Wessel struck up quite an interesting one where he talks about in 1 Samuel 16 about worshiping and how David was selected to come and play his harp to the King Saul. And we were just generally talking about that, but Wessel wants to elaborate on this, and I believe he's got a very strong message out of the scripture. So Wessel, let's kick off with your thoughts.
All right, thank you, Werner, and welcome to all our listeners. I'm going to start with another verse because in our discussions we actually went to the Bible at other verses, and I'm starting off with Proverbs 18 verse 16, which states that a man's gift make room for him and brings him before great men. This obviously highlight your gifts that can lead you to opportunities and introductions and visibility before very influential and important people. So yes, David. Now let's go back to David. David was playing his harp there before his sheep. He probably made or his lyre. He made his own little musical instrument, and he sings. And that was a natural gifting in him. And he was a good singer, because somewhere else in the Psalms it says the sweet singer of Israel, and he composed many of the Psalms. So over time, he became very skillful. Now here's Saul. Saul is disobedient to God, and he sacrifices. He sacrificed the sacrifice before attacking the Philistines, or I don't know which tribe it was right now. I think it's the Philistines, or it was
Amalekites.
The Amalekites. And Saul saved the king, spared the king of Amalekites, and also took a lot of the spoil. And Samuel explicitly told him, wait for me for the sacrifice, and you will not spare the king or anything of that and that. And so when he came there, Saul was disobedient to Elijah because he spared the king, and he spared that the soldiers could have all the sheep and the cattle and so on. So when Samuel got there, he said, what is the bleating in my ears? And then Saul says, yeah, but I spared. And he says, you were disobedient to the Lord. And then he wanted to walk away, and Saul gripped onto Samuel's cloak and tore it. And then he said, God has now torn the kingdom from you. So from that day onwards, Saul's life was plagued by an evil spirit. Now, in order to relieve him from the evil spirit, they were thinking of a plan. How would they do this? And then they thought that the Israelites actually knew that when there's sweet singing unto the Lord, and there's worship before the Lord, and there's a skillful instrument played before the Lord, then evil spirits depart. When the presence of the Lord came, then the evil spirit depart. So Samuel, in 1 Samuel 16 verse 17, 1 Samuel 16 verse 17 and 18, Saul says, so Saul said to his servants, provide for me a man who can play well and bring him to me. Because that's what the suggestion was to him. Then maybe that evil spirit will leave. So one of the young men, in verse 18, it says, one of the young men answered, behold, I've seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, who is skillful in playing, a man of valor, a man of war, prudent in speech, and a man of good presence. And the Lord is with him. Now, very interesting how Saul's servants choose this singer and worshiper. How this young man suggested it. He says, firstly, he must be skillful. I mean, you cannot be part of the choir if you croak like a frog. It's not gonna, you must exercise. If you really want to sing, you must exercise your singing, and exercise your skills. And maybe there's another gifting that you have. And I actually believe that every person, believer or unbeliever, has like a gifting from God inherent in his person. And if you can find it out and work with it, then uh, then it'll attract God's blessing and it'll attract favor into your life. So, the first thing was he was skillful in playing and singing. He exercised his skill. The second thing, he was a man of valor. Valor is basically integrity. So David also exercised integrity. He was real. He wasn't acting. A thing of worship that I find many times, and it puts me off, is people sing emotionally, or they act emotionally, or they act the thing out. There's not a realness for me in the worship, and so David was. He was full of integrity in his worship, and he was a man of integrity. He didn't lie and steal, and that he was a man of valor. Then the next thing says he was a man of war, somebody that will take on the enemy. Now, that is spiritual and natural. In David's case, it was natural, but obviously with worship, he took on the enemy as well, spiritually, and many times he was guided by the Spirit of God to take on Goliath. His spirit was stirred within him. The next point was he was prudent in speech. Now, prudent in speech means I have to check how and what I say, or what I converse about, how and what I speak. You must be prudent, not speak too big about yourself or about things, or add a little bit or minus a little bit. The whole Bible and nothing but the Bible, not minus the Bible or plus the Bible. Just what it is. Just tell it as it is. Simple, prudent in speech. And that comes especially with testimonies. Then the next thing is a man of good present. Now, presence is somebody that not only look good, not a beauty, necessarily a beautiful person, but to be presentable, to present yourself modestly and appropriately. Not to present yourself, I'm Elvis Presley. If I go Sunday to church and I want to sing and I dress up like Elvis Presley, that is definitely not of good presence. Because I'm not Elvis Presley, and neither can I sing like him. Okay. The next point is the Lord is with him, and this is the biggest point of David. The Lord was with him, and they realized if this man exercises his gift, God's presence come down. And they knew if God's presence come down, the evil spirit will depart. John, I believe you had some thoughts about this as well.
Yes, I just find Exodus 31. And the Lord said to Moses, "See, I have chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, the son of Hur, and also Holiab, have given them all the skills, ability, and knowledge in all kinds of crafts to make artistic designs for working gold, silver, and bronze." And the thought occurred to me that God has given people gifts. If you've got a gift that God's given you, then you must exercise it and use it to God's glory. If, however, you have not been given a gift, you should not trespass in the area where you're not gifted. And I'm afraid in the church today, there are many people who are trying to do things they're just not gifted for, including myself at times, and you've just got to know what God wants you to do and what he doesn't want you to do, which is just as important. So that's the thought I just got from that during my daily reading.
I think that thing of forcing of forcing something. In one place in 1 Corinthians 12, I think it is, let a man wait on his ministry, wait on his teaching. You should wait on your moment. If you have something, wait on your moment, because God will, if you have something from God, God will certainly bring it in its moment, in its season. What do you say, Werner?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that, because if you have to think of David when he was skillful in his craft, in his playing of the harp, let's say he was lacking in that department in some way, where he wasn't at the most skillful level and point that he was supposed to play. Can you imagine? Can you imagine going to the king at the wrong season and playing, and then obviously not playing out of tune or something? Would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
I know when you're practicing and you're working towards something, there's a time when you've now got to stand up and perform in front of everybody. But you prepare. And what I love about this thing about David is he didn't actually know he was preparing, because he was actually playing to sheep. And he didn't know he was going to play to the king. Very interesting. I love the fact how God took him from the shepherd to the performer in the king's throne room.
Amen.
That's exceptional. And only God can promote people like that. Only
So,
God.
Werner, what you're telling me, I should find some sheep.
Yeah, record yourself playing your guitar to the sheep. And with enough practice, when the sheep is not running away, then possibly you're not ready to play for an audience.
This verse, I also, John challenged me also when I said beforehand, I said that not all of us have the gifting of music or singing, but maybe you as a listener have got another gifting. I mean, you can develop that gifting as well, because as the verse in Proverbs says, a man who's skillful, the key word is skillful on his gift, because God has given you something. I believe it with all my heart. I believe that you have a gift, a natural gifting, but maybe even a spiritual gifting, or maybe even a spiritual calling into the ministry. You see, so you have a gifting. And I know God in His Word, in one verse, it says the gifts of God is irrevocable, without retribution. Is without repentance. He will not take it back. Once you have a gift, it is your gift. That is given it to you to exercise and to use for your benefit and for other. It's actually more for other people than for you. Because if I serve other people, I serve other people with my gift. It will have a reward. Yes, it will have a reward. But so maybe your gift is carpentry or mechanic or accounting or computer programming or whatever, but you still have to practice it. And it's like the verse that says you must rock up for class. You must be there amongst the sheep. And amongst the sheep you are just almost a sheep almost, you're amongst the sheep. You're not counted as somebody amongst the sheep. And I think that's what Werner was trying to say, Werner, I'd like you to repeat that again, because that's very important, what you said about the sheep.
Yeah. You see, myself as an artist as well. And I used to, from a very young age, I had the gift of playing drums. And all I wanted to do when I was a boy was play drums. And therefore, that gifting was only perfected when it was practiced and driving my neighbors crazy, because I was playing for the walls. My drum set was in a separate room of the house, but the thing echoed back to to the main house, and I drove, drove people mad. But coming back to David, he had time to look after the sheep and play his harp for the sheep. And whether the sheep now could understand the music or not, doesn't matter. The point is, he had time to practice. You cannot play for the king if you haven't played for the sheep yet. There's an order, there's a process. And in my case, when I realized, I actually started playing drums for the children's church. I realized the practice that I've put in helped me skillfully play the drums in the band. So I would play it in the church, and I was in primary school. And everybody thought, wow, yes, look at this guy. Look how young he is, and he's playing in the band already. But that's the thing. It's your gifting that God gives you. When you activate it, you play to the sheep like David did, and you begin that growing process of skillfully acquiring the time and the effort to play the right notes, to articulate artistic workmanship in your gifting. And then eventually God promotes you. You step up. Now it's time to perform. Now you're on stage.
John, I believe you also play the violin.
Yes, after fashion. Yeah.
But you played a lot in church.
Yes. Yes, I wasn't very good though. My problem was I didn't practice enough. So I proved very what Werner was saying. You've got to practice.
Yeah.
But then,
And the violin is not the easy instrument.
No, it isn't. No, you've got to.
It's definitely one of the most difficult ones.
Yeah.
Well, I still think that the last verse is very important. I think even if you've got a gifting from God, make sure that the Lord is with you. That was the last item which the young man told Saul about David. The Lord was with him. Now, I think that's very important. There's many people who exercise their skills, their God-given skills, and they come before kings, they make money, but the Lord is not with them. Now, that is an error in the ways. I think God wants you to be with Him. You know, the Lord is with you, but you also need to be with Him. You've got to seek the Lord. And I think if you look at David and the amount of Psalms he wrote, the Lord is my shepherd. Just think about that. You know, that's what he's saying when he looked at the sheep and he says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You see, so that's beautiful, that. And it rings true. Even if anybody, even unbelievers, when that is read at the funeral or somewhere, it rings true, because that was a reality. It was a reality which David shared, that he lived out because the Lord was with him.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that's important.
Can I ask a question? How do we know what our gifting is?
Yeah, I think there is something that I like it. I think one of the things is you naturally like the thing, and as you serve God, it becomes actually more clear. And many times there's a verse in the Bible that says, whatever your hand finds you to do it. And then gradually you get promoted into areas, and you naturally almost like gravitate towards that which you like. But the first acts of service to other people brings you into a relationship of servanthood. And I think that God does not promote you from an attitude, I am the king. He promotes you from an attitude, I want to serve. And if you present yourself before the Lord or before the church or before people to service, and they say, and now they say to you, many times they say, I want to be a painter. I go to Michelangelo and say, I am a painter. What will Michelangelo do with you? He'll say to you, won't you mix me some red there? Take that and grind it and mix it like that and like that. And you better, and then he gives it back. He says, no, it's not fine enough. You must grind it more. You see, you get all the menial tasks in the beginning. And don't despise it when they give you menial tasks to do, because sooner or later you'll be given an opportunity to actually develop, to go into your skill, and God will make it clear for you. And you'll also, I don't know, what do you like? I don't think it's that complex. What do you really, really, really like, and what's the motive why you like it?
Yeah. I asked that question because I got an answer to it, actually.
Give us an answer, John.
There is a course called the SHAPE course, SHAPE, and I can't remember what they were, but it's H stood for Heart's Desire, as you said, and we put it together and we run it in our church in Swindon, and in Wheatley, and for some time. It's really good, really excellent. It really is just evaluating these different things. And I always remember one lady who's on the course said when she finished, she had an interview with the pastor who said, and she said, well, I think everything I looked at thinks I've got my gift is administration. What a dreadful boring gift, But pastor, well, as a matter of fact, we need a secretary to the PCC. So she served on that, and she was excellent. It was really good, really helpful. So the SHAPE course, you can Google it, put it on a search engine, you SHAPE, SHAPE, if anybody's interested in doing that. It's quite an excellent course.
When John asked, how do you know what your gifting is? John, from my experiences, when I was a boy, I just literally automatically gravitated towards the drum set. Don't ask me why. When I was in church, I would look at the guy on stage and he was banging away there and he was having a great time bashing the cymbals and he was keeping the rhythm. I just got drawn to it. It was like a magnet, and I just gravitated to it. And when I realized I like this, I want to start playing, I started building my own drum set where I took my mom's, I took boxes and I built myself a drum set with her Tupperwares. And I smacked those Tupperwares to pieces. Her lids were so banged up, she had to buy new Tupperwares. I used the pot lid. I used to put the pot lid and turn it upside down and bash that as cymbals. That's how I started. So it was just this inner thing that just manifested. Yeah, that's how it happened to me.
Yeah, I like that acronym of SHAPE. I'm just trying to put something together in my mind, And for me,
if you Google it, SHAPE course. You
should probably get the headings. Yeah, servant, heart's desire, adaptability, perseverance, excellence.
I think A is ability.
Ability.
I don't know. I can't remember what the others were now, but
but P might be perseverance, and E might be excellence, and we must become excellent.
If you Google it, you'll find it. So
I will Google it because I like that very much. I do think Samuel served Eli. That was from a very young age. He learned the sacrifices, he learned this, he learned that, until one day he heard the voice of the Lord. And it is good if you know the Lord in your gifting. Do you have an excellent gift? Present it to the Lord and know the Lord. That is really something that, we can have gifts and we can have all these things, but if you don't know the Lord, what is this? You just worshiping yourself. That will be so sad,
I think the Lord delights in worship, whether it be singing in the shower, whether it be praising in the kitchen. I believe God created us for worship. It doesn't matter if you can skillfully play an instrument or not. If you make a joyful noise unto the Lord, He doesn't mind. If you write poetry, if you love writing, if you love making woodwork, Jesus was a carpenter. I think in everything we do, we propitiate God's glory in being created in the likeness of His image by doing, by creating, by being artistic, by articulating beautiful words and poetry. And that's what's so special to me, is because I believe we are walking, talking pieces of flesh that worship God in everything we do, everything we say, even in our relationships. We have this series on relationships. Everything we do with our relationships, we're actually worshiping the Lord as well, because we come together and we dwell together, and we talk, we reflect, we share. It's beautiful. When Wessel, you, I think we actually don't understand the complete depth of what you just opened here. Everything we do, everything we say. I'm going a bit deep because I sense, when the closer I draw to the Lord, the more I realize what I actually do, even if it is mundane things, it gives Him joy, it gives Him glory.
Yeah, I think once you have that relationship with God, I think He says everything you do becomes worship. Because now I say, Lord, please help me with this program that I'm writing, or please help me to play better guitar, or please help me in my singing, or please, and I want to worship you, or
Yes.
and that thing that you do becomes worship, because you also do it. You do it for your neighbor, or you do it for somebody, but you do it as unto the Lord.
Yeah.
It becomes an act of worship.
And the more we do it, the more better we get at it. Like David. I mean, for instance, let's say you like singing. What do you do? You start off in the shower. You start singing in the shower. You start singing as you perform your daily routines. But you actually become, and then people start noticing and say, wow, we always see you singing, but do you love singing? You say yes. And then, okay, sing for us something. And then the people realize, wow, you've got a nice voice. Next thing you know, the person becomes a star. Because, yeah.
That is true. I'm just reminded now, there's a woman in the east of our country called Esther Maslangu. And she painted Ndebele patterns with a feather on a house outside, and it's a Ndebele art piece, and she continued on it, and they noticed it, and gradually she became teaching other people about it, and she made artworks, and it started selling, and then one day BMW noticed it. And they liked it so much that they flew her out to Germany, and she had to paint a BMW. She had to do, and the whole BMW is in that Ndebele, with that Ndebele signs, that square and that colors of the Ndebele patterns around it, and she does it with a feather and paint. With a feather, not even brushes. So it's incredible, the skill that she's got, and the straight lines that she can make with that is actually absolute skill that she has practiced over many, many years. She came, it's actually a very, very simplistic person that exercised one skill that she got from God, and she loves it, and she teaches others, and she's enthusiastic about it. You can Google her, and you can look at the stuff that she does. It's beautiful.
That's incredible.
It's humbling.
It's actually humbling, yeah. Because little did that person know, one day she would start this skill and be recognized by BMW. and tribute a car to BMW. I don't think in her wildest dreams she probably thought she would end up there. And that's what's beautiful about this thing, is when we do something, how it actually blows us away of what sort of precipice we reach with this thing that started small. And as you said earlier, never judge small beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. Don't underestimate small beginnings. Yeah.
Wow. So what are we saying to ourselves? Start practicing. Thank you very much, Wessel. That was actually inspiring. It's funny how this verse started with a teaching and it ended up inspiring us, because it tells us how we can reach for the stars by just playing music to sheep. And that's how God promotes us. And I think to listeners out there who probably know they've got a gift or know they've got some kind of gifting, we want to just encourage you guys. If you play an instrument, keep practicing, keep playing. Even if it is to the sheep, never underestimate that small beginning. Be encouraged to continue playing, hone your skill, hone your craft, because God will promote you in a way that you probably never thought or could imagine. So we bless you with this teaching, listeners, and we just want to remind you that you can chat to us. Share us your dreams. What do you aspire to? Our email is at the end credits of the video. We'd love to hear from you. And we just want to obviously send you off this for the next week and bless you. Until next time, cheerio. Bye.